Hello everyone, my name's Morgan with the History Channel, and I'm just waiting for my co-host to come on because we're going to talk about exciting things today. It's going to be lots of fun. Kick off to the summer.
No worries. I stay cool,
Yeah.
I was thinking what I did wrong now.
No, it's not. It's me. I'm telling you, Mercury retrogrades. Every time I'm like, it's not going to affect me. Everything's going to be great. Like, it's not going to do it. Like, total disaster. Total disaster. Like, things don't work. The Mercury retrograde always, just puts me for a loop. Hello, everyone joining. We are going to have so much fun talking and stuff. Because
if you don't know how to go live in a decent way, who else knows? If you have to come you're not good, but I'll be getting there. It's like the second day in a line, so yeah, it's getting familiar.
Shows more of everything and whatever, it's fine. But yay, okay, we're back. And no, it just must be my other device, so it's fine. I switched devices and now we're live. And go ahead, why don't you start talking before Mercury retrograde decides get her off the stage again.
Oh my god! So I step in cold here, so that's improvisation. Now, the thing is, we are doing a great event during summer, gravitating around the Petit Lenormand cards, as I am known for. And it will be very special because we zoom in on each important aspect of these cards, and not only solely on just the techniques. Even though, of course, we teach the real traditional old school way of reading these cards. So that's one thing. And then we teach on how to take those cards out of their natural habitat in order to make the best possible readings that you can receive with a pack of cards. But that's only one side of the story. Besides that, we talk a lot about the ontology, the psychology, how to become like a better reader, or how to make really good use of your cards. And that actually counts for whatever cards, but this is of course particularly on the Petit Lenormand. Yeah, that will be fantastic. Besides that, we will have some guests. So one of the names we can also, will we show a peek here behind the veil, Morgan, who will join us en route? What do you think?
Yeah, we can, definitely.
Is the world ready for some secrecy?
Yes, exactly. You're the secrets thing. What she'll be talking about too is right up her alley. She's an expert on, self-care through the cards, self-care through how you even with health questions, but not the deep health questions. Cause again, you should always see a doctor, but to kind of give you the view on what you're looking at.
So we are talking here about Donnelly de la Rose.
Yeah.
And we are in contact with other great personalities in the field of the Petit Lenormand. I know these really great cartomancers and teachers, from the beginning, because I was somehow stood with them on the cradle of the, how can I say, the popularity in the Anglo world. That's not so a long time. That somehow happened around 2010. That's just only 15 years, and that's how we somehow came to know each other. And from there on, my name got really international.
Yeah.
And we always kept great contacts. I really respect these women. Most of the time there are women. I don't know what's with this profession or this. You hardly see any men except for Paul and some other last of the
Marco.
Mohicans.
Yeah, Marco. See, I was thinking Mohican and then Marco.
Yeah, voila. But that's the way it is. But yeah, they are really great personalities. We taught and spoke on events on so many occasions, and they have so much interesting things to say, you see. And since Mystery Channel is more than just a teaching facility, we also like to be bridge builders. We want to be really community builders, and in the past I really also saw how it not should be. especially how it not should be, and then we have like all these amazing characters like Donald Rose, Rana George, all these great people, but there was often also a lot of friction, not between us, but with students, and people who thought they knew it all, and they said nasty words and all that. That's also where we come in this field to be a great supportive community, and if you don't like support, if you don't like to relate in a decent way, well-mannered, also with humor, if that's not your aim, please don't be part of us. And everything else, we really like, and that's where we want to stand for. So this is also somehow the climate that we want and what you can experience during summer. And we will be talking about all these facets, and it doesn't matter even if you're like a real experienced Petit Lenormand reader, like professional or whatever, or if you're somehow somewhere in between, that you are like a hobby reader for yourself, for your mom or whatever, or if you just start your journey. There is something in it for everyone, and from the start, each of those 9 Sundays, so the Sunday of Lenormand, will somehow zoom in on a particular item.
Yes.
Make sure that you follow us. You will find out the whole program. But besides that, that's also something, Morgan and I like. We don't make it easy for ourselves because we like, things not to be too much scripted, We like the spontaneously, the instinctive moments, I hope that you can ask a question that I have to double check in my head, That's like exciting. That's like great. And I don't like to be too much scripted. You see, that on its own is also like a good practice if you want to read cards, because you have to somehow be a crisis manager. And I know that sounds funny, but that's like the case. You have to somehow be willing to have this small anxiety, uncertainty. I actually somehow came, really triggered by that. I was always like a kick seeker in my life. Coming from a martial arts background. I like to fighting in a ring. With kickboxing and boxing and all that. And I'm pretty much sure you would not expect that from me. Nowadays, I'm like old and and grumpy. But in my heart, I'm still like a adrenaline junk. But we're taking a sidetrack. It's really important for us to have this adventure, and in a really supportive climate, and that's how it should be. We are like real people, not too much scripted, and with that mentality, we also invite you to be yourself. And within that climate, we can achieve everything. That's also how I work with my clients. I like to have this playful climate, where we somehow have to be instinctive and intuitive.
Absolutely. And for people just joining, we're talking about Summer of Lenormand because a bunch of people just newly joined. So, but keep going.
So whoever knows the Petit Lenormand cards or who does not yet know them, these are like the I find the most brilliant fortune telling cards there are, and this is like really like a system. And if you get this system down, you can really read these cards, and there is always like this discussion, and we can have this discussion because like very interesting. People think that you have to be like a medium or something or that you have like to have special gifts and all that, according to me, that's definitely not true. I really doubt if I have that, and I don't think I have that, but I have like a good intuition. But this intuition works in a way that I really have this way of reading. It's like understanding a language, Then you have like several options, what those cards in combination. Then it's up to you to decide within that context and with your intuition, which is the right answer, in old school cardomancy. That's what we teach, a card you cannot somehow add your own ID on it. And I don't want to say what you have to do with these cards, but then it's not like old school cardomancy. Is it wrong to do that? Well, I don't say that, but it's not like cardomancy is not what we teach. You can also, a card like Morgan shows, and you can somehow for yourself think, okay, what does this somehow open in me? That's not how it should be, because the card that Morgan was showing is a card about dangers, like the side.
And the box together? Oh my goodness.
So
danger.
and this like the fox somehow, amongst other meanings, can somehow point out deceit, and of course decide is like danger. So if this was like the answer on whatever question, will this man be a good man for me? Yeah, then of course you can reason for yourself that it's probably not the case.
Yeah.
According to the cards, how much you listen to that information is also up to you, because we also talk about the ethics and the ontology and the psychology of it all.
Yeah.
And I have some really interesting things to tell about that. Also, because for years I was like a professional cartomancer. Yeah, reading cards for people all over the world. Whilst living in Belgium, people came from Switzerland, from all over Europe, to somehow sleep in a B&B next to my house. Not next, but somewhere in the neighborhood, bang out of order. I would never do something like that. That's up to whoever wants to do that. I don't say that it's wrong, but I've a lot of experience in that regard. But at the same time, I'd always had this mindset of like a therapist. So I also want to really think about what just happened if people left the door.
Yeah.
You see, what is the process that we evoke here? How did the information land? What will they do with these information? These are all really important questions that goes besides that you can somehow in a technical way read what we just did, like there is a site and there's a fox, and this is somehow like bad news because there's one card expressing danger and another card expressing deceit of some kind. And that's really easy. I think that's easy. And less is more, and that's how it should be. But this also needs like a good ethical, psychological and ontological framework.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of which, Donnelly just joined us.
Oh, Donnelly. You just missed all the praise, all the praise about your person.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, you're just talking so great about her, and then now she shows up.
Yeah. It will be a great summer, and we invite you all. And we will really want to have this talk going. We want to have this talk behind the cards. The relationships with you and the cards, that's one thing, and that technique, I find you should do the utmost in order to comprehend that, It takes much more than that. You have a whole library in your head with whatever cartomancer or teacher has written, but what's the word of it if you have no ethics? What's the word of that if you cannot somehow convey a message in a supporting way?
Yeah.
See, it's much more than just that.
Yeah.
And throughout the years, and of course, as a therapist, my vision is colored way much in that way, because I think even though it should have many impacts, first of all, the alternative information, and I say alternative because you somehow in the end get this information via some cartoon boards. That's something maybe like crazy, but that's the way it is. That's cartomancy, and cartomancer are a little quirky. I don't know. that's what makes us stand out. But besides that, I always have this in my mind. So okay, but now what you just showed. So you showed like a site and a fox. So in the Petit Lenormand language, you somehow have like two keywords. It's like danger and deceit. So you can conclude with whatever question that does not bode good, and there's a danger for a certain deceit. Amongst other, that's somehow the content. But then, what happens then? You say this, and what will this person do? If this was the question, okay, will this be a good man for me? You just as well might get this as an answer. So what will you do then? Will you call him and say, don't ever show up again? Or will you somehow take it on board and take it as a warning? Or do you just neglect? These are like three different questions, and these can have like different outcomes. And already back in the days, since nowadays I don't read cards anymore for people, sometimes for my wife or maybe for like my children or someone who really wants that, who I know I can really do a pleasure with that. But I still like cards, and some people don't get their head around that. But I am very much interested in symbols and how we somehow can work with, and that's also because I'm very much engaged. Everyone knows it with Freemasonry, and it's like in Asiatic society. And I always had this love for symbols, but now we have like the chance to step in those symbols. You see, you are part of a ritual. all that, you see. But that's also from there, the Freemason aspect, but also like the therapeutical aspect. And besides that, of course, the old school cartomancy. And I like them, all the three of them. You see, but I have a whole different view on that. And I don't say that it's like better or no, but I have a lot more to say, even though for old school cartomancy, in regards of the ontology, psychology, ethics. Yeah. And I also have like tips to make a little bit more use of symbols to somehow not only looking down at the cards on the table, but also looking up and to see these symbols on the table in real life. And that's also like the title of my volume 4. So my last work on the techniques of Lenormand, and now I swear it. From there on, it's like finished. And of course, I don't know what to write anymore. My volume 4 is like a very thick book, and it somehow teaches the really original method of distance, but how to go about doing this and taking these cards outside of their natural habitat. And their natural habitat, that was meant to be in a grand tableau with all 36 cards. And I like that, but it's not my message here that you should not use that outside of that context, but because I just as much read these cards outside of the grand tableau as inside. That's what I always say. If you have like a sprained ankle, you don't need to go to the hospital and have like x-rays from your neck or whatever. You see, and what I mean by that is if you have just like one question about your work or about your love life, it's maybe better to somehow zoom in with a separate reading outside of the God. Whilst you can also read on that topic inside. So you can do so many things, and maybe Donnelly can somehow confirm or deny it, that's like interesting. But, it's also, at least that was my experience, the form of the day. So sometimes you think, okay, less is more, and then you can convey the ultimate message from 3 cards. And then you don't see it in like a grand tableau. And in another day, you read all out of the grand tableau and you throw like 5 cards and you somehow throw a blank. Even though if you read cards for like 20 years. So, and that's also, I think, important to also let the person behind the cartomancer. We are just like people like everyone listening in.
Yeah.
You see, and to explain this, like 10 years ago, like I just said, people came from everywhere in Europe, that was bang out of order. They came from Switzerland, from everywhere. So if they once know your name, then someone on a psychological level, something really strange happens. All of a sudden, without me asking you, somehow of a messiah. So it's like really strange, realizing that by my first readings, what I did, like I started like in the early 2000s, and then how it starts. Okay, Bjorn, you should do this. You should do it for the public. Okay, and what kind of money do I have to ask? Oh, I can just ask for like €10, which is a little bit more than $10. You see. I have all go through these stages, and I can still remember that the first client came in, I was so nervous, like my armpits were sweating. I think I had like a circle as big as a basketball, and realizing this made it even much worse.
Oh no, yeah.
But to also talk about this, be open on this, I'm not a Superman, I'm not a Superman. No. But I think that what I want to teach you is that you have just a little bit more courage than anxiety.
Yeah.
That's also always my aim in therapy. Yeah. Because that's enough. That if you somehow want to do it, okay, be courageous and just do it, and after that, it's also the feeling that you get from that, but that's also what that you transfer if you read those cards. It's much more in an ontologically, psychological way than just reading these cards with whatever technique, even if you just somehow read these cards in a more creative way. Because this is something that is like somehow more popular, like in the tarot world, where people say, okay, but this is like a symbol, and I throw a card and I somehow see how this is received by my intuition today. There is something to say for that. You see, in the end, I think that's also very valuable. Yeah. But I think that it is, good to say, and I don't find it harsh, that old school cartomancy is meant that you read these cards. And I don't want to mingle in how you should read your cards, because people are so nagging about how you read their cards out of Then I would say, out of rebellion, just put them on your coffee cup as like a carton.
Yeah, there you
That
go.
would my reaction be. You do what you cause with whatever you want. You see, but old school Carter, man. See, I feel also that's like, it also felt for me always like safe. I would never dare to somehow rely solely on my intuition by the imagination of the image. That was never my forte, I thought. So for me, it was also like playing safe, knowing it's not the easiest way, because I somehow had to learn, I had to somehow memorize things, but it gave me much more courage to somehow explain what's dealt on the table, and I could somehow prove it, even if it was not the right answer, but it's like here.
How you got there.
Yeah, but of course I realize it's also due to my character, that's also due to my uncertainties, and how things go. But it's important, I find, at least this is for me very interesting to talk about. See, and that we also find your path within this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's some of the stuff we'll be talking about for the Summer of Lenormand, finding your own style, finding your, the way you're going to experiment with the cards. And I've always liked the system the best. And even if it's not the exact meaning the cards always do, because everyone has the stories of where the coffin means like illness, but it can also mean literal death and how you're going to read it. And everyone has the stories of how they read the card and saw it differently because that's what actually happened. So,
yeah,
plus
and I think, I really think, and not that that is somehow my world, but I think that this gap somehow came to be because people started somewhere in the middle of the story, and they did not comprehend the real original voice.
Yeah.
And that's not because I teach that is be all end all. But if you know that, you can really somehow have like double confirmation on what it is. Because if you want to know if this coffin means like illness in the Grand Tableau with the method of distance, you can confirm this or deny this with the position of the other cards. Because if the coffin would mean illness or in a dangerous way, you also need to have the tree close dealt, or near or very near to the center.
Yeah.
See, and then you can have like a double confirmation. And if then the tree is not inside your comfort zone, then you can left your shoulders, but not too quick. Because the coffin is also like that's not like a good influence. It could also mean like a debt, or in a financial way, and people dismiss this extra meaning. It can somehow allude to bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if this was the case, then I want to know, okay, but where are my money cards dealt? And there are several money cards. Oh, the anchor is like close. The fishes are close enough. So, okay. Oh, and there even like the ship is coming in. It could maybe mean like extra income or money.
Yeah.
Or even like a heresy. But if I want to know if it's like a heresy, then I should somehow give tidings about the death. Somehow have the story, and if you know these old techniques, you can confirm them. You can actually somehow test it. You can have this ID, and then you say, okay, what I reason here, is this true? Let's have a look. And somehow this is somehow like a doctor works.
Process of elimination.
Voilà. So you have like an illness, you have like a fever. Okay, but and you're like coughing. Okay, it's like in general. So probably it's like a flu or something. Oh, but I see you have also like a swollen leg. Okay, that's another kettle of fish. You see, and that's how you go about.
Yeah, it's true. Plus, then you always get the confirmation when it does come true later. Always. I've had that with the coffin where it literally was death in both cases. The person died.
Yeah, of course. That's not so good. And then, of course. What does this with your life? You somehow received a message, and now you're gonna live under your bed, or what you're gonna do. But these are things to think about. I really had like people in my courses back in the days, and cards were not good for them. And I don't want to make you afraid, because they could not handle their anxiety took them away.
Yeah, but I feel like when those cards do come up, you're doing something that's leading to it. It's not like you're healthy running around and like, oh, you're gonna die. You're usually doing something that could bring about that death, which both cases when I was reading absolutely did. And or like even when you get the bankruptcy thing or anything bad, you're being forewarned, because whatever actions you're doing right now, whatever you're doing in your life is about to run into that. So it's like forewarned, Uh-oh. Okay, he paused it Oh, did he pause it for both of us? I think I'm still alive. Okay, when he comes back. We'll see when he comes back. What I was saying, for me at least, and these are stories I'm going to tell during Summer of Lenormand, of course. Stories, oh, here we go. Okay. Is that you're forewarned. You can do something about it. And maybe that's why you would then do the Grand Tableau or ask a question, what do you now have to do to prevent this from happening, to prevent this from coming? Because that's how I've always seen the cards when I do get all those negative ones. It's like, okay, great, now I know this is happening. What choices am I making that's going to lead me there? What am I doing right now that's going to do it? Like, it's time for a big course correct. And then pull more cards, maybe. Or that's when you do the Grand Tableau. Yeah, it's okay.
I really dropped a glass of Pepsi Cola on my trousers, on my feet.
I love it. See? Mercury retrograde, I'm telling you, at its finest. And it's in Cancer. It's like bringing the water.
I don't know, Mercury. I think that my brain is in retrograde degeneration.
Well, yeah.
But we stay cool. What was the question?
Yeah, no, I was just going on about, when you do get the death card, the bankruptcy card, the bad doomsday card. I like it because you're being forewarned. You're making choices in your life. You're taking actions. You're doing something that's leading to this. So what is it? Maybe you just need to look at what you're doing. Maybe the book's there, something you're not seeing. So then maybe that's when you'd ask a question, what am I not seeing? Or why would this happen? I don't know. You have to phrase it, which is another thing we're going to talk about during Summer of Lenormand, all the right questions, but that kind of thing. That's why I like, not that I like when they come up, because obviously when I was doing the spreads of the death cards, there was nothing stopping that train. You at least, you know what I mean? No, you're being forewarned. You're going to now have time to course correct, to maybe make some changes in your life, because I've seen people who've been given stage 4. And it's because now, and they beat it. I've actually seen that. So that's why I forewarned, Yeah.
It's like double. And there is also why I want to talk about the ontology. And this item is much bigger than you would ever think. Because you also have to know, okay, I will ask a question that I otherwise in some way could not know. Or already, but gets confirmed or denied or whatever, you see? But also you have to understand what will happen if I know this information.
Yeah.
You see, if you are my friend, and I ask you, okay, Morgan, but do you really find me a nice person? No, I also have to give you the chance to answer in a way that you want, with all your integrity. But I have to somehow know and accept that you might not give a pleasant answer.
Yeah, so it's
somehow that's the same with cards, I find.
No, that's true.
And know why you asked it.
That actually brings up, I like that, because I like how you phrase that, because never asking the questions because you really don't want to know the answer. You're not ready for the answer. And you get that a lot when people actually sit down, not the conventions, because the conventions, people are fine with sitting down and laying out the darkest of what's going on, but they're asking a question that's a go around what they really want to know, because they don't, like you said, asking somebody, oh, do you really value me as a friend? But if you're not wanting to ask that because you're not ready to hear the answer, that's in relationships too. Not wanting to see you're actually in a toxic relationship. But now you're asking all the questions around, how do I make this better? How do I fix this? When it's really, you just need to see the reality of the situation. So that's the other thing too, is those questions that people want to know but don't want to know. So they're asking the roundabout way of asking. If that makes sense, if I made sense.
Totally sense, and that's where we stand out on the road that we take. Of course, the techniques and all that, that's really important. But
yes,
all the rest that is around that, I find much more important.
Oh, no, it's true, because you can learn to read the cards and you can be really great at laying out a spread and seeing what it is. But that's why we're doing Summer of Lenormand too, because we're talking about everything else like that, the questions around the questions. Like you said, all of the psychology part of it, actually what's happening and how to deal with situations, not just laying out the cards and reading.
And I like to add on that, in regards to the techniques, because I know a lot of people are really like the old school cardaments who really like my work in that regard. So they know it's well researched, it's time tested, and I also am a lucky bastard in regards of my American colleagues, because I'm living here in the epicentrum of it all. You see, like yeah, in Belgium, I'm close to France and Germany. I had the big advantage to read all those book packets a day, but also to have like contact with these old school cartomancers. And it's something strange. You might not somehow expect it, but like the Petit Lenormand, like in Belgium and Holland. Now, like in Belgium, Holland has a very big tarot world. But like in Belgium, most people think that the Petit Lenormand cards are tarot cards. That was also what I was thinking. If you know what tarot cards are, no, that's one thing. But then you also have to know what's the difference. But I later find out that tarot cards, that's all discussion, but overall, we assume that they have like 78 cards, whilst the Petit Lenormand cards are just like 36 cards, and if you're somehow a little bit lazy as I am, I think, okay, but now I have to learn just like 36 meanings, and otherwise 87. That was also how I was thinking like in school.
Yeah.
Efficiency, minimum input, maximum output.
Yeah.
And that's also interesting because Morgan is showing the tarot tower, and of course in the Petit Lenormand there's also like a tower. And even though I don't want to mingle in how you have to read your cards, I will explain you that it is like interesting at least to somehow also get notion of the original meaning of the Petit Lenormand tower. Because it's like a very good structured language, where you not per se have to add on meanings. I also add on meanings, but they are well thought through and like a logical extension of the really core ideas. These are like great cards. Oh, that's from Anastasia.
That's her newest deck, the Irrelevant Oracle of Medieval Marginalia. Sorry, it's a long name.
That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful. Yeah. No, but these are things to talk about, and there's something in it for everyone, and especially in regards of the ontology, the psychology, back in the days I had this urge to talk about the process, that somehow really came up, and I wanted to do much more on that than on the techniques alone. And now I'm like back in the game, even though I'm still like the technical part, the traditional part, but I think I can do much more for you, from the standpoint of a therapist, as a self-proclaimed anthropologist, self-proclaimed thinker.
You said you were able to research all the original stuff, and even now there's a lot of books and there's a lot of texts that aren't in, English. Like, I still haven't been able to read, Madame Lenormand's biography because there's not not a real one, because they're all in different language.
Yeah, and her biology, also
biography.
a little bit on the edge, but yeah, that's like the big advantage, and I will explain a lot of things because from the idea from the Anglo world, looking at Belgium, France, Holland, and Germany, they talk about schools, but there are no schools in hindsight, of course, looking back then how it was, but. Like I already said, the earliest books on the Petit Lenormand, they were somehow mid-1980s, previous century. And before that, there's like a big gap. There were no books. I can really assure you, because this was my big advantage, back in the day. So I could really, I've mailed all libraries in Germany, in France, in Belgium, and Holland. I did a lot of field research, and nothing. So I can be totally sure of that. There was one book somewhere in the 1960s. In regards of the real meanings, that was like bang out of order. That was, I don't know what these were in stages that people were on LSD or something like that.
Making the best system of it.
Yeah, but
clearly.
This is like really important background information.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And not to come back in the field and say, okay, but this is not true and that is not true. That's never my goal. You see, but it's like important to really see it how it is, I find.
Yeah.
And I think it's like important that also someone steps up and says how it is. This is also how a community and how a movement is sharpening itself to get to a higher level.
Yes, I really think so, definitely. Because there's just so many great ideas, great stuff coming out. Like I said, it's like new inspiration for an older system.
Yeah, voila. That's and that's also the title of my volume 4. So from the grand tableau to the tableau vivant.
Yes.
You know, this is a lot of French, a lot of oh. And
Yeah.
besides that, that was also my promise. In 9 Sundays, I teach you the right pronunciation
Oh,
of Lenormand. And you guys in return, you help me with the right pronunciation of my awful English.
no, that's. I know. I know. I know. That's what I have to work on too, because I still say Lenormand, and then or the last person who was trying to get me to say it the right way, they actually just gave up on me because that's how bad it was. Like they're like, never mind, just like my pronunciation was so bad, it was like worse. They're like, no, just keep saying it the way you're saying it. I'm like, all right then.
You know, but the nasty thing with that is, if and we have a lot of conversation, you know, I will talk the same as you. I would say, no more. How do you say that?
Lenormand. I'm bad with pronouncing things anyway. Like my brain like freezes, and I'm just like,
It's not my forte anyway, but I'm glad that I also can laugh one time. Normally, I'm the laughing stock.
no. Go right ahead. That you know, because if I didn't know how to pronounce things, I'm like, I'll just come back later. So I skip over the word. So I know the word, but I skipped over it. So I see it in my mind's eye, and I'm just like, oh, I forgot how to say it. Even though I never learned.
You know, I don't know what interview this was, and I had to say renewal. You see, but is that right? Renewal?
Renewal, yeah. That's yeah.
And I was thinking it's like renewal. And
Yeah.
I said it a few times, and then it's buzzing in my head. This is not okay, you know. And then I don't know. We were interviewing, you know, and I would do the same, and it was somehow like a smirk. And they said, "Pardon?" I said it again. But I would have done the same. I have to admit. So that's you know, that's like fun. You know, we have to laugh with ourselves. People who cannot laugh with themselves are dangerous.
Yeah. No, it's true. I'm always laughing, so it's always good.
Yeah, you see, but this is also like the environment that we like, you know, and it's like if you are like in a playful, pleasant mindset, you know, that's also the best possible way to absorb information.
Yeah.
You see,
Oh, absolutely.
learning whilst you're not even know that you're learning, you know, like kids, you know, when the kids play, you know, for instance, my son, you know, he was very bad at math, but he was good at darts, you know, and by playing darts, he learned math.
Oh, nice. I like that. Yeah. Got to go to your strengths. That's like
Yeah, you
picking
know,
your.
and then it's also not like a heavy task because it's something you have to do to achieve whatever you like. You know, that's like a better motor behind it.
Oh, absolutely. You know, that is really true because, like, he liked darts, so it motivated him to be better. Whereas school, there's like some of the times in school when you learn something, there's no motivation. You're not going to use it in the chosen profession. You know, yeah. I was never good at math either, and I never had motivation behind it. Pick things where I don't have to use it. No.
So knowing that, you also know what you can expect during these 9 Sundays, because for us it's very important, the climate, how we go about with each other. Of course, the techniques, you know, I'm very much engaged with that, but that's just one thing, you know, and now I come in the field for that other big part.
Yeah.
You know, because you can know whatever you want, but without ethics, it's none.
Yeah.
You can rather know a little bit and have enormous ethics than the other way around.
Yeah. Definitely.
And, you know, working with people, you know, it's also something like a task. You should not underestimate what you're not like a psychologist if you're like doing cardaments, but you have like a psychological impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
you should
Absolutely.
not think light about that.
No, definitely. Because I think it's gonna be exciting then.
But also not for yourself, so we will hand over so the right thing also to somehow, if you start to work with people, that you somehow have the right borders, that you are somehow
Boundaries.
handed over the anchors to somehow also say, okay, but I will not answer this, or why do you want to know that? Also knowing what maybe like the handicaps of the cards are, but also what your own personal handicaps are, because people are very eager to learn from you, but you should also be sure that they don't throw their responsibility on your lap.
Exactly. Because I know people who say they don't, you know, how, like somebody comes up and they're like, oh, just tell me what the cards want to tell me. Because again, a roundabout way of not asking what they really want to do. And I know some people who won't do it. It's like, no, what exactly are you here for? Because you're here for something. What do you want to know? You know, because you're paying for it. You might as well get to the bottom of whatever you're doing. My headphones just died again. Oh, well.
Mine is also dying, and I'm like getting outside.
You just lost again.
So,
oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay. You're back.
So it's like getting dark here. So yeah, we will be back on Friday during the live, isn't it, Morgan?
Are you doing?
But make sure that it's.
Are you doing 7 your time?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I think so.
So then 1 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah. So make sure that you're part of it. Make sure that you follow us. Make sure that you already subscribe. 9 Sundays, a real reasonable price, and you got a lot of richesse in return. Make sure that you're there. Thank you everyone for watching, and
yes, thank you everyone. I'll have all the information in the comments of this video. So okay.
I now have to clean my trousers because I have, I'm glued to the grass, I think. Bye.
Bye. I gotta figure out how to end this.